Okay. So let's hope that that allows me to reset everything. Uh, it didn't. Oh, well, it says that I've invited you again. Okay. Yeah, we're having a little technical difficulty. Sorry for the stall. I'm going to let him refresh his browser. Um, this is we had a problem last week too, so gotta love technology. Every time they fix something, they break something. So
hello, hello.
there we go. So apologize for the technical issue. I
Yes,
took
so
3 of my people. We fired 3 people during the 30 seconds he tried to get on. I'm teasing.
first
Welcome.
time, just me. I'm just figuring out what's happening here, how to join.
Yeah, it's first time is difficult. I appreciate you taking some of your time to be on our show today. And I watched a video you made. I think the day that Russia invaded, you made it either that or the day after. It was very early, and you made an English language YouTube video, and a pretty. I think it's a pretty accurate video given when you made it, and it gives a very nice history. I think it's 10 or 15
Hmm.
minutes long. I think you did it's a for those people. I want Lucas, when we send things out, I want to add a link to that video if it's okay with you.
Yes.
Yeah, it although it's 5 months old, it really gives a great uh, feedback to
Mhm.
people on what it was like that day. I think you put a lot of emotion in there, but it's
Yeah,
also very
yeah, that video,
very
yes, I
educational.
was feeling all the emotions. Actually, the first 10 days I even couldn't sleep, yes, after the invasion. I was, of course, terrified, shocked. We were figuring out what to do. So I decided to speak out. Yes, I decided to record video in English, in Spanish. Also, I speak this language, and mostly my audience is in Ukrainian. They're Ukrainians, so my YouTube channel also some Russian people watch. Yes, my
Yeah,
viewers and from Belarus too.
and so before the war started, um, you're a journalist. What was your topics? What did you tend to cover before the war?
Yes, I was covering mostly about culture, interviews with celebrities. Yes, mainly celebrities. Yes, it was my focus because I used to
And these would
work
be
all,
Ukrainian. And this is
uh,
mostly for
in
Ukrainian audience.
Ukrainian
So
language. In Ukrainian language, yes. I used to work on TV also several years. 1 year on one channel, 2.5 years on another channel. So I pretty much met some even presidents of Ukraine. I interviewed some celebrities. I interviewed ordinary people, ordinary Ukrainians with their problems because I was covering different topics. So I mean, one day I could cover about I don't know, politician or exhibition. Another day I needed to go to a farmer to interview a farmer to ask him what's happening about this reform and etc. Yeah. But then I wanted to create something new, and also I wanted to create one travel blog, travel program. I did this, but in Spanish language. It wasn't so successful. So I started looking for another content that what can I make, what people love, and yeah, people loved about culture, yes, about singers, about actors. So I was doing this, but after February 24th, my content and my work completely changed.
yeah, and are you still in Colombia or?
Yes, 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 I do.
So you've
I
been
traveled first here in 2015, and I did an internship. So I was teaching languages here, and I was writing my master's
Okay.
thesis about Colombian journalist. And then I needed to return to Ukraine in 2016 in order to present my master thesis. I did this, and but I met my wife here, my girl here.
Yeah.
So that's why this is a love story. Yes, I was trying to
I
convince
thought
her
I was
to
going to ask, but
Ukraine.
I thought I'd let you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that loves makes people do a lot of moving.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
and we were
I'm
actually in Ukraine last year in September and October, and I even wanted to stay because I organized my job so I can work online.
yes.
Yes, on YouTube, and also I teach languages. So I mean, I could work there, but also she's a lawyer, so she needed to continue working. So I made this decision. So we're gonna stay a little bit more in Colombia, and then we were planning to come back. We didn't know what this is gonna
Yeah.
happen. Hmm.
And you've been organizing some protests in Colombia. Um,
Hmm.
the
Yes.
uh, so my contacts in South America are mainly in Brazil, and in Brazil, the Ukraine war is not a big topic.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Unfortunate. Hmm.
I know, and we don't actually have a large Spanish audience, so we don't help on that front. But I was wondering about Colombia. Maybe is one of the things we could talk about today is
Hmm.
uh, how have you motivated people in Colombia to be supportive of Ukraine?
Yes. Look, firstly, people didn't know about Ukraine. Maybe they knew the capital, some of them, maybe 20% before the war, yes, and knew about Chernobyl, that's it. After the February 24th, when the war has started, people started, like journalists, they started broadcasting, yes. So they found me, I gave, yeah, I know in the first months, maybe 30 interviews. I organized many protests, because I wanted people to know, to help, to stand with Ukraine, to stop this war, to stop this dictator. Yes, because we have to be united. Why? It's so important because if today Russia invites Ukraine, Ukraine is a smaller territory country and with people. Yes, tomorrow, I don't know, Venezuela is gonna want to take Colombia, or the United States is gonna want to take another country. So we have to stop this. We have to stop this. That it's illegal. It's not true. You are a terrorist state now, and actually this Sunday we organize another protest, another protest
Yes.
manifestation with the name, like we call to the world that please stop negotiating with Russia, and we ask the government to recognize Russia as a terrorist state. I know that in the United States there are a lot of talks and conversation about this. In many countries, Ukrainians did this protest in different countries around the world, more than 50 countries, and this Sunday we're gonna do this in Colombia near the Russian embassy at
Right.
12 p.m. Yes, we're gonna do this. I organized the protest. I couldn't be silent. I was thinking, what can I do in order to help the Ukrainian army, Ukrainians? I have relatives, and I have relatives from Mariupol and from Lviv too. Yes, from the city most affected is Mariupol,
Right.
and and we organized many protests. I try to draw attention to people so they can speak, they can publish pictures of Ukraine protesting. So I even put in one protest the paint, red paint myself, so I can draw attention so people can see it. This is uh, like barbarity, yes, this word.
Yes.
Yeah. So Colombians, they know now about the war because maybe for the first 2 months Every day Ukraine was on the news, a lot of news, different cities. So now they even ask me what city. They know Kharkiv, Donetsk, Chernivtsi, Lviv, Kyiv. They know this. Unfortunately, from the bad side. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and now I say because I recorded videos in Colombia and in Ukraine, and I try to compare these two countries in Spanish language. So now they can check it out and they can find this. But people are generally they are supportive, and in Colombia it's democracy still now. We don't know what's gonna happen this year because there's gonna be a new president, and yes, they support. Even one girl, she approached me in the gym one time I was, and she gave like some amount of money, and I say thank you so much. We have the group of Ukrainians. We recollected like 14 million pesos. It's like for well, more than $3,500. We bought tourniquets for soldiers. It's tourniquets, military tourniquets. It's to stop
yes.
the blood. You know, yeah, so we try to help how we can from here. And my help, yes, because for example, I was thinking, what can I do? Yes, so I'm strong, yes, with the word, so with the information, yes, so I have never spoken in Russian before, actually, in my videos. Yes, was the first
Right.
time I spoke to them. Yes, I used this language. I knew this, but I didn't use it because I was working in Ukrainian. My audience was
Yeah.
in Ukrainian, and I wanted Ukrainian language to prosper. Why? Because during centuries, Ukrainian language was prohibited. Ukrainian culture was prohibited. Many poets and many leaders of opinions pro-Ukrainians they were killed. Russian Empire and USSR created three genocides in 20th century. Yes, 1922, 1923, 1932, 33 is the worst genocide in the world, where they killed approximately 10 million of Ukrainians. They died because of hunger. Yes,
Yes,
they.
I think actually, if I saw it in your video, and since you seem to you've brought it up again, and it means you've studied it a little bit, and I think this is some information that our audience is probably not aware of. These things you're bringing up, and so maybe I can uh, get a little more
Mhm.
detail from you. So
Yeah.
so the Russian Empire. Uh, there's a revolution in Russia. It becomes the Soviet Union. Um, the first genocide was I think I'll let you talk about it, but it's like in the 22 or 23. What was that
Mhm.
about? Why did it happen?
It also was about hunger. Yes, about hunger.
Yeah,
They
they use starvation. I think that's the first kind of
starvation.
brutal thing to hear is
Mhm.
there was some crop failures, but then they used that excuse to literally starve the people. But and this was Lenin doing this?
Yes, at first was Lenin, then it was Stalin. In 46, 47, my grandma, she remembers this. She is alive. I interviewed also in Ukrainian for my channel. And she was born in 1944, yes, during the Second World War. She was very young, but still, after 46, 47 was the third genocide USSR Stalin did. And she remembers when she was very young, maybe 4 years, because it was difficult to recover. And still, my grandma, she
Right,
lives
right. It
she
didn't
lives
just
near Poland. Yes, so she could survive because the eastern part of Ukraine was the most affected. So she told me this that they didn't have a lot of food. They ate green apples. Yes, they even weren't ready. So she remembers this hunger, and now she tells how can you say it's not tasty, or you are not going to eat this piece of bread? So it's different now.
but this is so this oppression from Russia. I think that's why it's interesting for our audience is that this was occurring, um, for well, but even the last 100 years, um, the oppression of Russians over Ukraine and Ukrainians has it's something that has repeated itself,
Yeah,
and
it repeats. For
you know
example,
you're just seeing it once again. Pardon,
yeah, I want to mention to your audience that it's good to
please.
read history. For example, there was Kiev was founded in the 5th century. Yes, the first political organization was created in the 9th century. It's called Kievska Rus. It's like I don't know how to translate to English, but like Rus de Kiev. Yes, it was a political organization. So Kiev was the main city, and Chernihiv was the second city, and Moscow was created by yes by Ukrainians, by these leaders on this land. Let's put it this way. They created Moscow only in 1147. Yes, so in 12th century, Moscow was founded by Yuri Dolgoruki. It's a Ukrainian like king. I don't know how to translate this. Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
and yeah, and yes, the main state was in Kiev for many years. Yes, even Orthodox religion was in 1888 by King Vladimir. Yes, so we have very old history. Yes, and they change everything, and even like Rus, it was Ruska Mova, like it's not Russian, it's Ruska language. It was Ukrainian language, yes, and even they stole this Rus, yes, because Rus it was in Kiev in Ukrainian territory previously, yes. So there are a lot of things about the history, but Ukrainians were fighting all the time against Russian Empire, Poland, this country, and against
Yes,
Ottoman Empire,
Austria.
yes, yes, historically, yes, there were Cossacks. I don't know, Cossacks of Zaporizhia, very Cossack. Do you know what does mean a Cossack?
Cossacks is yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have hetmans. It was the hetmans, also dynasty with Bogdan Khmelnytsky. He was fighting against Poland because Poland wanted to take Ukraine, or Russian side wanted to take, or Osman Empire wanted to take this. And we always had, and the most interesting that, for example, there were more than 100 40 restrictions of Ukrainian language and literature by Katerina II. It's Catherine II, the Russian
right.
Empress, Russian empires. This is Peter I, Peter II. In Waluyevsky Circular, Emsky Ukaz, it was in 1863, 1876. You can read about this prohibition of everything Ukrainian. This language doesn't exist. You can't print in Ukrainian. You can teach at school in Ukrainian. But Ukrainian language survived. Ukrainians survived, you
Yeah,
know. And now people in Ukraine, they are very different, yes, from western part, eastern part, because we were under Russian occupation for many, many years. But how is Ukrainian territory was divided? Yes, in 1991 they were checking this, who where they could find Ukrainian language people who spoke Ukrainian in Donbass, for example. There are very famous poets from Donbass, for example, and publicist and a journalist, Dmitro Dontsov. He was born in Melitopol. Yes, it's in Donbass region. There are many,
right.
mhm, yeah,
Yeah,
many
no.
poets.
I think this is again something we haven't done on this show is uh, do what you've just done. I think it's very nice, and I appreciate you giving some of the the reason that I think people outside of Ukraine and Russia, um, maybe some of the neighboring countries are as well, outside of that area don't necessarily appreciate, um, you know, the history of Ukraine and the fact that it weighs on Ukrainians. In other words, it's your history. It's you know it's in you. It's not in me.
Yeah.
My relative, by the way, came from Denmark, just so you know. But it's a um, it's it's a feeling of like we finally broke out in 1991. You know, once again broke out. You know, I mean, it happens. You know, it happens and it doesn't. And now, you know, 30 years later, you know, this dictator is trying to undo that.
Mhm.
He's
I
trying
think
to dominate.
Ukraine is gonna be a military state. We have this neighbor. We have to be ready always as Israel, Palestine. You know, even women they go to the army in Israel for 2 3 years. As far as I know, 2 years, and then they study military deal for 3 years. Yes, and we need to we need to be ready for everything. I believe in the Ukrainian army, and I appreciate the help from all the people, even even a comment, sometimes to give a hand someone. I don't know, to send several dollars because, for example, it's also important, to help people who are dying now. For example, what happened in Vinica several days ago, I was perplexed. I was shocked. I cried also when I saw this. It's unfair. And also the way we are living through this situation, we have to listen to psychologists because all Ukrainians we are affected by this situation. Why? I explain people because in the previous century, people didn't have so many pictures, so many stories, videos. Yes, now I can see almost everything as in real time, and it's like something new technology. Yes, that we can say this is we can even record the faces of these people. And. Lot of information for Ukrainians. So we also have to take care of our mental health because many people are affected with this. For example, in my case, only in my case, I had an acquaintance from my childhood. I was my friend from my childhood. Like I didn't keep in touch with him now, yes, but before, yes, and he was
Yes.
working at the car repair station from my grandmother's village from Lviv, near Poland, 90 kilometers to Poland, and he was killed by a Russian missile. 27 years old. He was just working. He wasn't even a soldier. It's unfair, they are terrorists, yes, because they're
It's
killing
terrorism. Yes,
innocent
I
people.
I understand. I say on the show, and I'm going to repeat it again. I guess people are going to get bored of it.
Yeah.
That this is this century's Hitler.
Excuse me.
Okay, this Putin is this century's Hitler. And you
Yeah,
know, yes,
yeah.
and people, even people not interested in history, know that this is an
But yeah,
evil
but you
person doing a lot of evil things with a very strong country.
yeah,
And Putin is
but
an
you have
evil
to
person.
understand that
Go ahead.
all countries they need to take care of this. Why? Because before Putin was Stalin, was Hitler. Yes,
Yeah,
Stalin and Lenin too. He did a lot of barbarous things. Before, if you read about also this empire and these tsars, Russian tsars, you can see that all like Russian people they follow this. And it's terrifying. Why? Because it's a danger for the whole world. This person changed the constitution last year. I mean, their president, Putin, changed the constitution, and he's gonna be until 2036. He changed to be a president until 2036 for 30 years being a president, the same as Lukashenko. It's impossible, He feels like powerful. He feels like God. He can do everything people need, in Russia, yes. And Russian people, I'm very disappointed with them. I'm very disappointed because if people don't speak out, they can speak. You know, they can. Ask me how they can speak. For example, how they can change the situation. Even creating accounts, for example, not with their names, but writing the truth,
Right. No,
answering
they
comments,
right.
informational war. They can, if million people go on strike on the street that they are against, something is gonna stop. But they don't do this. I respect several actors, one politician I know, uh, and some singer, maybe even not 10, there are like maybe 6 7 people who spoke out from public figures in Russia,
Forms,
you
yeah.
know, and I'm grateful to them, but it's not enough. Everyone needs to say this, you know, because now it affects Russians, it affects all the world, the economy, these threats about the nuclear weapon. It shouldn't be nowadays. So we have to also, there should be an organization who can control a president. I don't know, you know, because it's crazy. It's crazy. Until the change the constitution, stay the president until
I, I
2036.
I told someone on the show a couple of weeks ago that you'll know that you've just gotten a dictator when they change the constitution so they can stay in power. That's the end of democracy. That's the beginning of a dictatorship. And it
Hmm.
happened in China a few years ago. It happened in Russia. It happens lots of
Mhm.
places. Whenever you see an elected official change the constitution so they can keep staying in power, you now have a dictator. You
Yeah.
could have a nice dictator or a bad dictator, but you've got a dictator.
Yes.
I think that was. I want to thank you for we're kind of out of time, and I want to thank you for giving the history, giving the emotion and the plea. I'm especially. I know that you're taking your time and your effort to do getting the word out, which is what this show is all about. So I appreciate you taking your time to do that. Um, we will follow up with a Lucas always follows up. We'll get a link to your English language because 90 well all our shows are in English,
Thank
so
you.
almost all of our people are English
Mhm.
speakers, but I'm sure we have a few people who speak Ukrainian,
Yeah.
and we'll get that out to you. And I want to thank you for your effort and your time. All right,
Thank
audience.
you. Thank you.
Well, thank
For
you so
speaking
much.
about Ukraine and supporting Ukraine. Thanks a lot.
We're working. Thank you.